Hey there, Bulldog fans, and welcome into the Bulldog Blitz. I'm your host, Mark Minner. Coming up on this week's show, the women's volleyball team is undefeated in league play. The men's soccer team just cannot be beat, and the women's soccer team opened up their league schedule with a narrow victory. But first, the Butler football team went out west for their first game in the 2010 Pioneer League season. The Bulldogs took on San Diego and started off the game with a 60-yard drive, but missed a field goal that ruined what was the best chance for Butler to score all day. San Diego was in control of the game, and running back Phil Morelli rushed for 100 yards and put up 2 touchdowns on their way to a 24-0 win over the Bulldogs. Andrew Huck threw for 74 yards on 12 of 22 passing, and the Butler offense was outmatched 356 to 91 in total yardage. The Bulldogs are looking forward to getting back on track this Saturday for the second league game against Campbell that will start at noon in the Butler Bowl. Opening up the Horizon League on the road is always a tough task for any team, but the men's soccer squad was up for the challenge this past weekend. The Bulldogs took on both League Wisconsin schools to extend their undefeated record this season. On Friday night, it was a decisive matchup against Green Bay, who is historically one of the best teams in the league, and beat the Bulldogs in last year's Horizon League championship. Butler went up by just 1 goal 8 minutes into the first half, and neither team would score until there were 19 minutes left in the game. That's when junior Matt Hedges drove one in the net for Butler's second goal. Green Bay would tack one more on, but it would not be enough as Butler secured the victory. Then on Sunday, Butler traveled to a southern part of Wisconsin for a matchup against Milwaukee. This time, the Bulldogs did not allow a goal, and it was their 4th shutout of the year. Again, the Bulldogs were helped by the foot of Matt Hedges, who provided some excitement when he opened up the game with a goal in the first half. It would prove to be the game winner and was Matt's second of the weekend. The Bulldogs are now ranked 17th in the nation and continue to climb in the polls. They will start a longer homestand this weekend when they take on Valpo Friday afternoon. Women's soccer kicked off league play in perfect fashion this weekend with a win over Wright State. Sophomore Katie Griswold knocked in the only goal of the game for either team off a corner kick in the 25th minute. Sarah Phelps shot in the corner kick high in the air, and Griswold was able to header it in. For Katie, it was her 6th goal of the season. Butler goalkeeper Olivia Walter had 5 saves and did not allow a goal as the defense held strong, and Butler collected the 1-0 victory. The next league game will be on Sunday against Valparaiso. Coming up next, we will talk with Lance Rinker, a sports writer for the Butler Collegian, to get his take on this week in Butler sports. Stay with us on the Bulldog Blitz. Hey there, welcome back out of the Bulldog Blitz. Mark Minner, joined by Lance Rinker once more. Lance, the sports writer for the Butler Collegian. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me back.
Let's talk about Butler football. Maybe not something that everybody wants to talk about at this point. San Diego, the trip did not go how they had hoped, 24-0. Let's talk about your initial reaction.
My initial reaction, it was such a weird game with the timing. It was actually a 6 o'clock game out in California, so 9 o'clock our time. I wasn't able to watch it or listen to it, but I saw the box score and the final score, and I was really just in shock. The box score, I saw that we were outgained on offense 356 to 91. Yep. So really, I was just curious more than anything, what went wrong?
Well, I know you talked to Coach Voris. I think the offensive issues really hurt them, unable to generate anything except for that first drive that didn't end up in scoring.
Mm-hmm. But they started off pretty strong, surprisingly. 16-play drive that spanned 60 yards. They were in field goal range and weren't able to convert that kick, and I think that kind of killed some of their momentum maybe a little bit. And after that, San Diego seemed to just figure out how to put a cap on our running game, and once they stopped the run, they were able to focus on stopping the pass and really pressured Huck all day, and he was never comfortable in the pocket, and it showed.
And in terms of players, this team is really not that different from that of last year. Sure, you lose some seniors as you do every year, but a lot of the same players returning that started. And you have to wonder, a team that was so successful last year, able to win the Pioneer Football League championship, what's changing this year? Why the slow start?
Well, I spoke to Coach Voris, and he said really they're just trying to find themselves and their own identity this year. Not a lot of key players were lost from last season's championship team, but they're a different group and it's a different year. And every game they're just starting to learn a little bit more about themselves and what works and what doesn't. And also, being the defending champions, they're going to get everybody's best shot. So everybody's gunning for them. There's a target on their backs for sure. And right now, getting into conference play, they're starting to find out what they need to do and what level they need to play at to be successful.
And I'm sure we'll see some aggressive play next week when they come back home, take on Campbell from North Carolina. What do you expect in that matchup?
Well, Campbell's an interesting story. They're just 4 years into their football program. They started a program about 3 years ago. So they're a very deep team now. You're starting to see juniors and seniors on their depth chart. So from an experience standpoint, I think they might have the upper hand, but it's their first time ever playing here at the Butler Bowl, so that's in our favor. It should be an interesting matchup. Definitely won't be an easy game, but it'll be easier than traveling all the way out to San Diego. So I'm glad the guys will be more comfortable here in Indy.
And for the women's volleyball team, they had a very successful weekend. Just one match for them against Wright State. Able to hold it to 4 sets. Maybe should have won it in 3, but still a good way to kind of kick off league play.
Yeah, they came out the first 2 sets and won pretty convincingly. The first set was tighter, 25-21. They won the second one, 25-17. And I think Wright State just came out of the break and maybe surprised us a little bit. But Coach Clark was able to regroup her team and seal the victory with a 4th set win. So encouraging.
Now they're 3-0. 3-0 in Horizon League play, off to a really hot start. And this year when they change up the format a little bit, it's very important that you try and win out in league play, but this has got to be building a lot of momentum for them.
It definitely is. They got off to that slow start. They had a really tough schedule, and to be able to win, they've won 6 of their last 7 games. So they're playing really well, and the momentum's definitely in their favor heading into this week.
A lot of key players on that volleyball team. One of them that sticks out in my mind, Maureen Bamiro, such a high-energy player up front, able to provide a lot of assistance with blocking shots, but a big player in that lineup.
Yeah, I was able to speak to her after the IUPUI game last week, in which she had 16 kills and 7 blocks.
Yeah.
So she's stepping up huge, and I just talked to her a little bit about, she accredited a lot of her success to the energy that they feed off of at home. And IUPUI, just for instance, is a pretty big rivalry, inter-city rivalry. So she thrived off that energy, and I think she has a really good connection with her setter, Gina Vera. So the two feed off of each other, and so far have had a lot of success this year.
Men's soccer, let's talk about another program with a lot of success so far. Starting off their Horizon League play up in Wisconsin. Not easy to go up there to start off. Green Bay, a very tough opponent, able to take them down. Milwaukee, good start to the league.
Yeah, they went up to Wisconsin and got 2 big wins. The first one, they won 2-1. Matt Hedges had a goal that was eventually the deciding goal. And then they played Milwaukee. That first game was versus Green Bay. They played Milwaukee later, beat them 2-0, I believe, and Hedges again had a goal in that one. It was tied at 0 until the 50th minute, so a hard-fought game for sure, but they won and we're still undefeated at 7-0. So
that's right, and a lot is made of men's basketball. They were able to really get a lot of national attention in the polls. But this men's soccer team has had a lot of success nationally as well.
With that undefeated slate, I mean, they are ranked 17th now in the nation and actually ranked ahead of state rival IU. So they're looking very, very good, and it means a lot for the program to be in the national limelight like they are. And if they can continue their success, it's hard to fathom how far up they could actually go.
And finally, this women's soccer team kind of struggled a little bit to start off the season, but their first league matchup against Wright State, they get a very tough victory.
Yeah, it was a hard-fought victory. Wright State brought a lot of aggressiveness. They were very physical, and it took a little bit, I think, for the girls to adjust, but they got a goal. Katie Griswold scored another goal. She's been a big part for this team in terms of goal scoring this year. Yeah, a big win versus Wright State.
All right, well, thank you, Lance, for joining us this week, and your analysis as always.
All right, thank you.
When we come back on the Bulldog Blitz, lots more to talk about, including what's going on at Hinkle Fieldhouse this weekend. If you like watching Butler sports, you're definitely in for a treat this weekend. The festivities get started on Friday with men's soccer hosting Valpo at 4 p.m. in the Butler Bowl. Then on Saturday, Campbell comes into town to challenge the men's football team in the second Pioneer League game of the season. Following the football game at 4 p.m., the women's volleyball squad will take on UIC in Hinkle. Sunday, the women's soccer team will take their turn at Valparaiso, which starts at 1 p.m. in the bowl. Women's swimming will also be competing this weekend against St. Louis, Valparaiso, and Evansville at Fishers High School on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Well, that will just about do it for this week's episode of the Bulldog Blitz. Make sure to catch us on Comcast On Demand or online at youtube.com/Bulldog Blitz Sports. Until then, I'm Mark Minner. See you right back here on the Bulldog Blitz.